And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Echo down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
145! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Welcome to another NSF live stream. Tonight we have a special double header. We've got a Falcon Heavy sitting on pad 39A, as you can see, ready to launch the USSF-52 mission, which is also really cool in and of itself, and we'll talk about that. And we also have a Falcon 9 at Slick 40, getting ready to launch the Starlink 634 mission. So, kind of a awesome night. We got a double header. I'm Jack Beyer for NSF. I'll be hosting tonight's stream, and as always, I'm joined by our competent set of co-hosts and cohorts, I guess. Starting off with, of course, Alex. Alex, how are you doing this evening?
Well, I love Falcon, so I really like when we have two of them launching, and one of them is extra heavy.
Yeah, I guess technically we have 4 Falcons launching kind of tonight, in a way, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Moving right along, we also have Sawyer on field comms out there, ready to watch this in person. Sawyer, do we have you?
I'm just getting set up here at our viewing site on Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. We have a competent team at Cape. It's me over here towards right in between the launch and landing zones. So it's a night and looking forward to sharing about this mission and maybe some warmer weather here. I apologize to everything I ever said from Max about needing to wear a sweatshirt, as I'm wearing one tonight.
I mean, hopefully you don't just look forward, because if you do that, then you're going to miss landing. You need to turn around to look at landing, right?
Untoken awarded.
Good deal. Well, thank you for getting out there in the field. And, of course, also Max and Julia out there as well. Not on comms, though, right?
I think they are not in comms. Yeah, you're right.
Cool. So this is a Falcon Heavy. This is 3 Falcon 9 cores ready to lift. Kind of an interesting payload. Alex, it's a little tiny space plane, right?
Yeah, and so the fun thing is today's Falcon Heavy flight uses reused hardware, and the payload is also reused because it has flown previously, and it's gonna launch again today. It is the X-37B spaceplane by Boeing, used by the US Space Force, and we believe this one is gonna be Vehicle 2. There are 2 X-37B spaceplanes, and there's the Vehicle 1, Vehicle 2. We believe this is Vehicle 2, the one that is flying on this mission. And who knows what things it is doing, but definitely interesting is the fact that all of the previous missions of the X-37B were launched either on the lowest performance Atlas V of all of the Atlas V configurations, and then also on the Falcon 9 Block 4. So this is an interesting thing when we have a Falcon Heavy launching the X-37B.
Yeah, that is one of the things that is making tonight's launch so interesting. Sawyer, I know you're a shuttle fan. I think that by proxy makes you an X-37B fan. Is that correct?
I mean, if I knew what it did more, I would say yes. But yes, anything that launches aboard a rocket and lands like a plane makes me very happy. And also,
Right.
the original debate for Adrian out there and his love of Delta Heavy, it almost flew on Delta IV Heavy, but it was SpaceX that won the contract back in 2018 to launch this mission, and now there's only one Delta IV Heavy left.
Got it. Well, as always on our streams, we do take questions, so if you have any questions, just type at NASA Spaceflight into chat and we'll see your questions pop up. But I think we can sort of jump on the doing question. I'm looking at the Space Force's website, the little press release they put out for this launch. And it says the tests for this mission include operating in new orbital regimes, which we'll talk about here in a minute, experimenting with space domain awareness technologies, and investigating the radiation effects to NASA materials. So we do kind of know a little bit about what it's not just like it's completely a mystery. I mean, we do have that one sentence with which to sort of parse things, and we can, go pretty far with that. But I don't know, who wants to just immediately take let's start with the last one, the NASA materials. They're launching some seeds, right? I'm gonna just wildly throw this one to Sawyer.
I think Sawyer may not be available right now, but I can take that one as well.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The NASA, so that experiment that they're talking about there when they talk about that is the seeds experiment by NASA that is sending plant seeds into orbit along with on board the X-37B. And what it's going to be looking at is the radiation effects of the environment in space on these seed plants. Now, the interesting part is that, as you kind of hinted with the new orbital regimes, maybe these new orbital regimes also have a different radiation environment, and that is what NASA is looking for, which they don't normally fly on those orbital regimes. So it's a nice idea to also have NASA experiments on board the X-37B. Apart from that, we don't know what else is going on board. So, but we can have a guess at what else might be going on.
Right, and so the first item on the list is operating in new orbital regimes. Well, as we were talking about, it's sort of interesting that this vehicle is launching on a Falcon Heavy when all previous launches of it have used much less powerful rockets. So, new orbital regime, I mean, what do you think, Alex? What could that mean? Does it mean an orbit with an M word that I don't know how to pronounce?
Yeah, so when you look at the Falcon Heavy and you look at the mass of the X-37B, you see that it is basically a very small payload for such a big rocket. That, the performance of the Falcon Heavy in today's configuration, because we're probably going to touch on that a bit more in detail later, but the center core is going to be expanded, the side boosters are coming back to land, and even in that configuration, it can still send the X-37B into a trajectory all the way to the moon. So you start wondering, well, where are they carrying this thing, right? It's not going to the moon, though. It's not what you meant with the orbit starting with an M. It's probably a Molniya-type orbit, which is a highly inclined and highly elliptical orbit. And so the theory that at least I personally have, and I've seen other people also kind of, other more knowledgeable people sort of figuring out based on the hazard zones for the first stage, for the ascent portion, and then also for the re-entry for the deorbit burn of the second stage, is that it is probably going to go first into some sort of parking orbit in low Earth orbit, and then once there, it's going to both increase the apogee of the orbit and also increase the inclination. And what happens is that changes in the inclination of your orbit are really, really a performance hit on your rocket when you are close to the Earth. So if you do it on low Earth orbit, you're going to spend a lot of that performance in just changing the inclination, and that basically removes a lot of the performance, and that's why you need that Falcon Heavy. That's why we think that is the case, because it not only sends it to a very high orbit, but also into a highly inclined orbit very close to home. So that is very not very optimal in the sense of how orbital mechanics works. And so that is pretty much why we believe that is why the Falcon Heavy is needed. It's not going to the moon, but it may be a Molniya type orbit. It might not be precisely a Molniya orbit, because there are other kinds of things, like it needs to be somewhere around 64 degrees inclination, and it needs to have the apogee over the northern hemisphere. This time around, it looks like it is on the southern hemisphere. So but it's ammonia type kind of orbit, highly inclined, highly elliptical orbit.
Got it. All right, so I don't know. I just wanted to cover those right off the bat, and we can get into some viewer questions here.
I've noticed something, Jack. I don't know if you have noticed something.
What's up?
We have a second clock now.
Ooh, we have 2 clocks because it's a doubleheader tonight.
Exactly.
Oh, now my my OCD is gonna be like, oh, the seconds aren't going at the same time. No, that's nifty though. Good deal. Once again, there is another rocket that will launch after Falcon Heavy. So not only do we get to see this beast of a 3-core rocket launch a secret space plane, we get to see the side cores come back and land. Then we get another Starlink. You gotta love the cadence out there at the Space Coast. Let's see. Let's do a viewer question. Ship28 is asking, relating to Starship, do you think they will test the deluge separately from static fires? I guess they're just asking about Starship right off the bat. I'm not sure how you would relate that to Falcon Heavy. But, I don't know, Alex, do you think we'll see more deluge tests in Starbase?
I guess. We'll have to wait and see what happens at a Starbase. I don't know.
Right.
It caught me off guard because I'm in the Falcon Heavy mindset right now.
Speaking of, Jonathan Tanner is asking, could this be the closest SpaceX doubleheader? This is like so an Alex question. They're asking what the current record is, because this is not the first time this has happened.
Yeah, indeed. So right now the record stands at 4 hours, 11 minutes, and 20 seconds. I haven't calculated how is the difference between these two to the second, but I know it's less than that. I know it's about 2.5 hours, a little bit more than 2.5 hours. So right now, if Starlink goes at first T0, there are another 6 backup opportunities, so it could go at any of those 7 T0s for that Starlink launch. So if it goes on the first, I think at least the first 3, it will break the record. So let's hope it launches early. We also like to see those launches early, because otherwise it's going to be a very, very dark o'clock, right? So we don't want that.
Very, very dark o'clock. Okay.
I don't know how to really
Here's one
say
from
that, but yeah.
Here's one from Jerwa asking, has there ever been a time when both X-37Bs were in space at the same time? I don't think so, but I'm not positive about that. I would have to go look on Wikipedia.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
They've always been sort of interchanging between missions. There might be a time when they probably want to have both at the same time, but I don't really know. I do know that we have had a time where we had the X-37B space plane and also the Chinese military space plane, because they also have one. And in fact, this is a thing that you can look up in next space flight. We have, in the next week or so, the Chinese are launching their own secretive space plane. So it's going to be fun.
Fun.
Yeah, typically what they do is they'll launch them, they'll stay in orbit for anywhere from 1 to 3-ish years, the last one being 908 days. They come back, and then usually 1 to 3 months later, the next one goes right back up. So I don't think it's ever been simultaneous, but it's pretty quick succession from when it's down versus going back.
Yeah, they have 2 of them, right, Sawyer? And they just kind of alternate back and forth.
That we know of.
Oh, I love
just
missions
think about
like this.
it. Because
Alex.
once Stream Chaser launches, we're going to have 3 space planes in orbit. Because we're going to have the X-37B probably by then still. We're probably going to talk about how long these things stay up there. The Chinese are probably going to stay up there for a while as well. The last mission was, I think, 7 months for them. So, 2 military space planes and now a civil space plane, the Dream Chaser. That's going to be 3 in orbit. So, yeah.
I love it. I love space planes. I love to see it. Sawyer, let's get a sit rep. What's the situation on the ground up there? Clouds, weather? You said you were wearing a big sweater earlier.
Yeah, it was about 55-ish Fahrenheit. the issue isn't so much the temperature as it is when there's wind. And there's a light breeze right now, but it was a lot stronger earlier. There's some thin wispy clouds up above, and maybe one semi-puffy one, but otherwise you could see stars, and really nice night for a launch.
All right, that sounds promising. Luke Fisher, kind of a related question to what we were just talking about, asking any word when or where this will land. Well, they typically land back at Kennedy Space Center, if I'm not mistaken, and the only inkling we have as to when is, like Sawyer just said, the last one was up in orbit for, what was it, 906 days, Sawyer?
I think 908, but if someone has it in front of them, they might have a more exact number. But either way, over 3 years. And typically, the only way people find out about it is maybe they'll put out a sonic boom advisory about 2 hours before it returns. Although many people along the Space Coast only find out it's come back by a middle of the night sonic boom, wondering what the heck was that. And it turns out it's the X-37B going to the launch and landing facility.
Oh, cool.
I remember there was a time where I think it was like a storm or something, and everyone was thinking, "It's the X-37B, it's the X-37B." And it's like, no, it was just a storm.
Yeah, it's like a transformer blows up somewhere in the in the Titusville area, and everyone is like, "Whoa, oh, X-37B!" Well,
One thing that I just realized, because this is
Yep.
Vehicle 2, and this has already launched on a Falcon. The last mission that this vehicle flew was the OTV-5, and that was launched on a Falcon 9 back in September of 2017. I remember that one because that was actually because I was thinking of storms, and that mission was right before a hurricane came through the Kennedy Space Center. So that was a really weird launch, I will say.
That was
Even more
Block 4,
weird.
wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Falcon 9 Block 4.
Before it had all the black accents.
Mm-hmm.
oh man, I'm such a big fan of this little plane. It's just, what is it doing? How can they make something that is so capable to stay on orbit for 908 days? Like and then it just comes back and lands and then launches again. It makes me happy.
And how will it re-enter from such a high orbit? Because I don't think any space plane has re-entered from such a high orbit. Like, not even the shuttle. Hi, shuttle. Take off the bingo card.
Yeah, good. We all passed the test. We mentioned the shuttle. But no, that's a very good point. If this is going to a highly inclined, highly eccentric orbit, then it's going to be coming in quite hot when it comes back to re-enter.
Mm-hmm. And also from a weird direction, because if it's highly inclined, it might also be coming from, I don't know, like right over Canada or something, or maybe from the south. Like that's gonna be weird.
Yeah, that makes me wonder if they will, in fact, land it back at Kennedy this time, or if they'll go somewhere else like Edwards or Vandenberg or something.
Do we really have the Kerbal Space program in our chat?
We do. He does. Cool. Well, let's do some more questions. How about? The Hoff is asking, will the X-37B launch any satellites? It does have a little cargo bay kind of thing, but no information as to whether or not it has another satellite body that it's going to launch or anything like that. It's all just vague.
I would tell you, but I'd have to make you learn about Ares 1, since we can't say the other option on YouTube. So,
I mean, I like Ares 1. I'm willing to admit it here now, live on air to you, Sawyer.
A tier. Anyway, what I was going to say though is that in the past they have launched tiny CubeSats that we're aware of, but in terms of this particular flight, as mentioned, the only thing that we know of is the high crazy orbit expected. We don't know the exact orbit though, and the seats.
Righto. Lisa Allman becoming a Capcom member. Thank you so much, Lisa, for doing that. You get Discord access at Capcom level and above, and our Discord rules. So be sure you check that out, and thank you so much for the support. And speaking of support, RC Horseman, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you, RC Horseman, one of those names that pops up all the time. Musical Wolves, speaking of, Thank you for the support there. They say, has SpaceX ever done a doubleheader at the Cape and then same day a Vandenberg launch? Alex?
Yeah, sure. They have never done. I thought it was asking whether they could. Yeah, they could. They have never done it yet. I think so. The record that they did back in wow, that was a long time ago. I had to scroll a lot. That was in March. That was probably like 70 launches ago or something. It seems like it was. It's March, so it was what 7 months ago or something. I don't know how to count, but it was still a long time ago. So yeah, it was between a Vandenberg launch, a Starlink Group's 2-8, and the launch of the SES-18 and SES-19 spacecrafts from the Cape. Yeah, it was 4 hours, 11 minutes, and 20 seconds.
They've never done all 3 pads, have they?
Not yet. I do think that right now, because you could in theory, instead of double header, have a triple header, and they have tried that in the past. And right now, I think their record for like how fast they have been able to do 3 launches in a row, I think it is somewhere around 31 hours. So it's almost a day, only by 7 hours. So almost.
Kaltenstein, thank you for the support. They say, what is cooler, 38 Merlins or 39 Raptors? I actually don't know which exhaust is literally hotter, because I wanted to answer with the Merlins, assuming that was cooler exhaust, because it's less efficient combustion, but I have no idea which is actually hotter. Does anyone have any opinions? 38 Merlins versus 39 Raptors?
All I know is you're coming for my pun job, Jack. Watch out. If your toes happen to get run over, it wasn't me, but it was.
Okay, I am on notice and slightly nervous next time I go to Florida. RC Horseman gifting 5 more Red Team memberships. Thank you for that. If you got a gifted membership from someone, especially RC Horseman, make sure you thank them. Chris W. also gifting a Red Team membership. If you're a Red Team member now, you get some members only emoji. In fact, I'm going to throw some star hoppers into chat because I can. If I can just do it there. Well, I'll do it in a minute. Jim Cavett, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Musical Wolves, thank you for the support. They say, since it's a space plane, does it mean it'll do a 3rd stage burn once deployed as it adjusts on orbit? Who wants to jump on that one? Not all at once.
Yeah, maybe able to take that. I saw Sawyer's is still muted, so I'll take it. A 3rd stage burn, does it mean with the X-37B? I know that the X-37B, for example, has capability to be able to maneuver.
Right, that's what I took it to mean.
Exactly, and since the last mission, the OTV-6 mission, it is also equipped with an extended service module, as they call it, that is able to not only include more propulsion capabilities and power capabilities, but also the ability to be able to have outside payloads and things like that. So it is a very versatile thing. Obviously, they don't show it a lot, and so this mission is also having that service module. It could be that this service module will obviously change the orbit of the X-37B multiple times across the mission. How many times? We don't know. Where will it go? Again, we don't really know. But it's fun to have a little bit of guess of what it may be doing up there.
Right. Good deal. Moving right along as we are getting close to T-minus 1 hour and get into the fun part of things here. The Evans NC, thanks for gifting a Red Team membership. Mark's Astronomy becoming a Red Team member. And Terrace becoming a Pad Rat. Captain A28 gifting a Red Team membership. Chris W gifting another one. Ground Umbilical Carrier Plate. Oh, Sawyer.
Not on a space plane mission.
No.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, that name, thanks. That name is just going to send shivers through our spine every time we... Anyways, they're saying, could radiation experiment have anything to do with potentially servicing Hubble? Well, that's interesting.
No,
My
it's
thought would be no.
Right.
yeah.
But it's interesting to think that any data you get from these seeds that are going to be exposed to, the Van Allen belts and a higher level of radiation than low Earth orbit spaceflight, it's just good data. More data, more better.
My guess would be it's for NASA at least, if they're talking about staying on the moon or eventually living on Mars, especially somewhere out on the moon where, again, the moon doesn't really have an atmosphere, it has none. So you're talking about much higher potential levels of radiation, especially during higher solar activity, potentially during flares. So I guess it's coming up with food that will be able to sustain through those dangerous solar storms.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Again, that's all speculation. If I was right and you don't hear from me in 2 days, then you'll know.
Oh, man. I mean, we joke, but yeah, we are wanting to be clear that so much of this mission is secret and classified that all we can do is take like the couple of press releases that have come out and the information that we're given and sort of speculate. So, Roland Hines, thanks for gifting a Red Team membership. Bideford, thank you so much for the very, as always. Oh God, where'd it go? Oh, it was something complimentary towards. I tapped too many times.
Oh,
Bideford,
no.
I'm sorry. Can you get it back, Alex?
No, but I can scroll back on our own live stream and I can read it for you. Awesome that my Jack, Sawyer, and Alex are all on tonight. 3 of my fabs.
Oh, thanks, Bideford. And also thanks, Jerwa. Very generous amount of support from another name we see all the time. They said this message is classified top secret. Oh no! I just read it out live on air.
What message?
What have I done?
What message?
Yeah, that is the only appropriate. Yes. I have no idea what you're talking about. Jerwa also gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Thank you, Jerwa. Awesome of you. Ooh, and Mark Garrett's. I know that, Mark. Also gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you, Mark. All right, let's do some more questions. Chris W is asking, how many Falcon Heavy flights are scheduled for next year? Do we know yet?
At least 2. That's the right answer, I should say. There may be a third in the cards. It's a bit more up in the air. Well, I guess it's actually in the ground right now.
Yes, I love the puns are translating.
But yeah, so we have the launch of NASA's GOES-U satellite. That is one of these weather satellites that they have, and so that's going to be launched on Falcon Heavy in the spring, and then in the fall we have another NASA spacecraft, really, really important spacecraft, at least for me, Europa Clipper. That's going to be a really exciting mission. That's actually going to be the next mission for these 2 side boosters. And they're going to be expanded on that mission. This mission, today's mission, they're going to be returning back to land at LC1 and LC2. But then after that, they're going to be going into that Europa Clipper mission where they're going to be expanded. The third mission that may or may not happen is the launch of Astrobotics Griffin lander. And that one is a bit more up in the air just because of the things with these, the lunar landers tend to take a little bit of time to get developed, and so it may slip into 2025. It's not guaranteed. But the Europa Clipper, at least so far, it's going more or less good, knock on wood. It doesn't happen like Psyche or anything like it. And then the GOES-U, it still seems to be also going good as well.
All right, then. Here we have a question. Ryan asking, any stubby nozzles on tonight's launches? We have 2 launches, Starlink and USSF-52. Sawyer, I don't think we're going to see any stubby nozzles tonight. Is that right?
For Starlink, they do not use the stubby nozzles, no. As for Falcon Heavy, I don't think they've ever used one. And again, at this point, it's using the performance from it. So my understanding is that this will be a full-sized, non-stubby nozzle.
All right. Yeah, that would be my inkling as well. If you're going to use the performance of a Falcon Heavy to launch the X-37B, which, as we've talked about, previously has launched on much less powerful rockets, why would you sacrifice any of that performance on a stubby nozzle just to save some manufacturing costs or what have you? Good question, though, from Brian. So, stubby nozzle bad, and we can move on because we're not even going to have to worry about it tonight. So, are you anywhere near max right now?
I'm 5.5 miles away from him, so nope.
That's
Dang
good.
it.
That's good. Keep the distance so he doesn't yell
Yeah.
to the microphone.
He like just runs up and tackles you.
But yeah, I guess because we usually have this whole block of information in the description about the upcoming mission. This one was even harder because it's like 2 missions in one single live stream. So I guess next time we should put like no stubby or something like it on the mission description, so people already know behind.
I mean, you joke, but not the worst idea.
Stubby, yes or no?
That'd be bad.
Andy Skibba is asking sort of a size comparison. What's the wingspan of the X-37B compared to the shuttle? Do either of you have numbers on that, or can you vamp for a moment?
I can quickly look it up.
Yeah, I'm guessing
Yeah,
Alex
no.
would be the one to look up the numbers. I can vamp while he looks them up. In that, I believe, it's a fraction of the size of the shuttle, so it's definitely not as large. And a reminder, the reason that the space shuttle was pretty big, besides needing a cargo module for DoD satellites as big as a school bus, it also needed to have 7 meat bags living in it. So not only did you need places for these people to live and eat and do other things and science and all that, you also needed all of the giant life support systems and everything and the fuel cells and all that. It took up a lot of space. So yeah, it's quite a size difference. I think Alex will have the exact numbers.
Yeah, so it's about 15 feet in wingspan, which is about 4.5 meters. And then for the shuttle was 24 meters or 80 feet. So that's quite a big difference. It's about 6 times smaller in terms of wingspan. But also the shuttle had this big delta wings kind of thing, which the X-37B doesn't have. It has a little more plunge shape kind of thing, right? I don't know how to really express it, but it's smaller.
Much. Yeah, you said like 6 times. All right. Well, thank you for that. And we are under an hour to go, coming up on T-minus 58 minutes. So that is good, and we will hopefully see things start to pick up and propellant flowing into the rocket and all that. So, Alex, what are we expecting to see next?
Yeah, so right now we should have, obviously we do not have access to that, sadly. But right now we should be in, or SpaceX rather, should be in the process of having the go-no-go poll for starting the propellant load. The propellant load will start at T-minus 50 minutes with a load of RP1 on the center core and the side boosters, and that will follow 5 minutes later with a liquid oxygen load on all 3 boosters. So we're approaching that moment. In less than 10 minutes, we're going to see all of that happening.
All right. Well, we'll keep our eyes open. We have a poll in chat. Best space plane. The options are Shuttle, Buran, Dream Chaser, X-37B. I don't know if I agree with these options, but there you go. If you want to vote on the poll, go for it.
I'm sorry, Buran got thrown in there?
I mean, I'm not going to start. I'm not going to... deep breath. It's a Falcon Heavy night. It's a good night. We don't need to argue about Buran being bad.
See, we have a Scott Manley in chat, and he says that it's Spaceship 2. And I think there's a certain JAG that took close-up pictures of that vehicle, I think.
Yeah, it is a good space plane. That's why one of the reasons why I was like, I don't know if I agree with these options. There's a lot of space planes. Let's see here. Also, hello, Scott. So
Crispy
Mark
says
Smith,
that if the shuttle does not win this poll, he will delete the channel. So, you know who needs to win.
Mark Smith is asking, what advantages does an orbit such as what this object is going to be inserted at provide? Longer exposure over certain areas of interest? So, okay, orbital mechanics time. Highly inclined, highly eccentric orbit like this, sometimes referred to as a... Oh my god, I'm going to have to say it out loud. Molnia? Is that the right way to pronounce that?
I think, yeah.
Oh man, I hate it. I hate pronouncing it. I'm sorry if I get it wrong. Anyways, an orbit such as this was originally associated with Russian comsats, right? And they were in this specific orbit because they were able to have a constellation of them. I'm like way out of my depth, but basically, at their apogee, they persist over the certain portion of Earth for a period of time longer because they're going much slower at that point. Is that a good enough generalization? Go ahead, Alex.
So this is a wild theory. Can we put a wild theory banner? No, I'm not gonna do that for the live stream operators. But what if? Let's put it out loud. What if they were to do low passes through the upper portions of the atmosphere, and that's why they need a highly elliptical orbit, for example? Because there are things that you could do close to the ground when you're in orbit. You know how there are these sort of satellites that orbit very, very low in order to take better resolution pictures? You know where I'm going, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what if that were the kind of thing that the X-37B was doing in its low passes, and that's why it's this kind of highly elliptical orbit, and then the high inclination, it has to do maybe with the communications, or highly inclinations if the apogee is in the southern hemisphere, the perigee will be in the northern hemisphere. And I can think of a few countries in the northern hemisphere in a highly inclined orbit that you will cross with your perigee. So, that could be a way of explaining this kind of weird orbit. I'm sure there's many other types of theories that you could bring up, though. But just wild theory. Oh, there you go. It's in the ticker. Wild theory alert.
Nice. Yeah, a lot to consider there. And what if they are doing some sort of low passes or using the aerodynamics of the vehicle and skimming the atmosphere to change their orbit a little bit, or like you said, get really low and take photos? Who knows? We sure don't, because it's all classified. Wow. Russell Snodgrass coming in with 2 insane super chats. Thank you, Russell, so much. First one, they say, have they ever recovered 3 boosters in one day? 2 sides RTLS and 1 downrange barge.
Yes, actually, Monty Burns GIF. Yes, and that was actually I mentioned yesterday on the NSF Live. We had the NASA Psyche launching one day, and then within 8 hours they launched a Starlink. So they have already done this. The thing I will say is it's obviously shorter time, because the time that they did that with the Psyche and the Starlink, that was 8 hours, 41 minutes, and 27 seconds between launches. This time around is much less. It's maybe less than 3 hours if it launches on time, that Starlink.
All right, then. Here's an easy one. Michael is asking, why does the strongback arm partially retract for a short time before launch? Sawyer?
I'll be brutally honest, I'm not 100% sure on that one. I'm going to toss that to Alex. I know what the strongback does in terms of providing electrical power and data, and obviously fueling mechanisms to it as well. At that mark, when it does retract, you'll also see the clamps that are holding the fairing halves. Those will start to retract, and it leans back approximately 2 degrees. I'm sure Alex has more exact details, though.
I always thought that was because, to protect it from the vehicle during, it does the throwback, but the little first move is to get it into position for the throwback, which is just to get it away from the exhaust, right? Or Alex, go.
I wish we had cameras, because you will see me nodding, because you were right, and both of you were right. Where Sawyer talks about how they need to open the clamps around the top stage, the upper stage. So obviously, if you throw back the whole strongback while the clamps are still closed, you probably will have a really bad time there. But you could still have the strongback up and just open the clamps, and it will be okay, right? But you kind of need a bit of a position where from that position you can throw back all the way, and that's what they do with that little, I think it's 1.8 degrees that they pull back a little bit, just a little bit, and it also helps them have the the umbilical length, so basically the length of those tubes going out there, it is they're able to do it away with just small with shorter umbilicals. So it helps with turnaround times and things like that because it gets nasty.
Yeah, makes sense. And I almost forgot. Russell Snodgrass with the other part of their insane super chat. 2 $100 super chats. Holy cow. Thank you, Russell. They said double header, double fun. So there you go. I'm excited. It's going to be a good one tonight. And we're just about 50 minutes to go before we see Falcon Heavy hopefully take to the skies.
We should be going now because right now, if you look at the top of the top left of the screen, we have already crossed T-minus 50 minutes. So that is the moment when all 3 boosters should be starting to get RP1, the kerosene fuel, for this flight.
Hang on, you broke up a little bit, Alex. You said that's the point. All 3 boosters
get RP1 kerosene, their
Uh-huh.
fuel.
Thank you.
Just we need obviously the confirmation from the SpaceX, but hopefully we should get that really, really soon, and we're in that position.
Alrighty. Brian Green, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you so much. Cap A28, thank you for the super chat. They say, sorry for getting off the launch tonight, but I have to ask about IFT3. Will they be going for in-orbit fuel transfer? It's not like with 2 starships in-orbit fuel transfer. It's a transfer between 2 of Starship's tanks. Is that a fair assessment, Alex?
Yeah, they have a contract from 2020 where they basically can demonstrate the transfer of cryogenic propellants in microgravity, and so that is where what we think is all going to be about. Whether it's going to be an actual orbit or the same kind of ballistic trajectory kind of thing, we think it's going to be a repeat of the ballistic trajectory, but now in that coast phase, they are going to be able to do that transition from maybe the headers to the main tanks or the main tanks to the headers. We don't really know which way they're going to go, those cryogenics, but it's probably up to 10 tons. That's what the award contract said.
There you go. The Welsh Padre, thank you so much. They say, Happy Christmas to all my fellow NSF fans and Happy New Year to NSF for bringing us fantastic streams throughout the year. Looking forward to 2024. Thank you so much. I think we all are too as well. Ryan gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you. And the Nozzle gifting 1. Astro Knucklehead says, Buyer Bacon Barn question. Could Falcon Heavy or Falcon 9 deliver Dragon to a lunar orbit? I think that would take a Falcon Heavy for at least for yeah, it would take Falcon Heavy to send Dragon to the moon, right, Alex?
Yeah, the only problem is if you were to enter orbit around the moon, you will not be able to come back. That's the problem with Dragon. It's
that's not part of the question.
Yeah, I mean, sure, okay, you can send it. The problem is coming back to Earth. If you want to stay there, be my guest, but right? So
yeah, so far no Dragon missions on Falcon Heavy. There was in the SpaceX lore at one point there was a mission, what was it called, Gray Dragon, where they were going to attempt to do that. But yeah, didn't happen.
But that was a flyby, so you could do a free return trajectory where you just go around the moon and come back. That is easy, sort of, in terms of the performance at least. But the whole thing of just going around the moon and stay around the moon in orbit and then come back, that takes a lot more performance to get there. And Dragon doesn't have that performance.
Also, for super creativity with SpaceX naming on that front, the Gray Dragon was the one going around the moon, and Mars was going to be Red Dragon. So why is this one Crew Dragon, not Blue Dragon?
I think I had a brain fry moment.
Yeah, I can't. Sawyer, I can't even.
Oh, I couldn't give you a real brain fry moment of asking you if an Uncrustables sandwich is a ravioli. No. I was asked that this weekend, and it has blown my mind ever since. But yes. Let's get back to launch stuff.
No, we've been over it. It's yes. The answer is yes. Anyways, 45 minutes to go until USSF-52 takes off from Launch Complex 39A. Here at Cape here at the Kennedy Space Center. I almost said Cape Canaveral Space Force Base because that's the second launch, because it's a doubleheader. So that's why we have 2 countdown clocks. In case you've recently joined and you're like, why do they have 2 clocks? That's what's going on there. It's a doubleheader tonight.
Oh, there you go, the Falcon 9.
Excellent. Brian Green becoming a Capcom member. Thank you so much. Connor G, thank you for the support. They say after tonight's mission, SpaceX will have launched 103 Falcon cores this year. Holy cow.
It appears
So-
that SpaceX is moving the launch by 10 minutes to the end of the window.
Oh, all right.
It's a
So
10-minute
we-
window, so it's okay, right? We're okay with 10 minutes. You're okay?
I'm okay with that, yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you for the update, Alex. Launch has been moved by 10 minutes to the end of the window, now targeting 8:24 p.m. Eastern Time, or 2024 if you understand 24-hour time, which is just far too complicated for my feeble brain. Bob Fillmore, thanks for gifting 10 Red Team memberships, and Cat Herder Cam also gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Very generous of both of you. And be sure to check out all your cool perks. All right, well, speaking of cool perks, do we have a certain Scott Manley in comms?
Hello.
Hey,
Does it
Scott.
work? There's always a moment where you go hello and nobody can hear you because you've got your mic set up wrong. You know.
Right. It's like, oh man, if a YouTuber says hello in their studio and no one's around to hear them,
Right. Yeah, your
Anyways.
computer audio. It's not rocket science, is it?
No, sir. All right, well, thank you for joining us. We saw you in chat and we were like, oh yeah, let's get Scott in. That sounds fun. So,
Yeah, I'm super excited about the X-37. It's one of my favorite things.
So, talk to us a little bit more about the potential for interesting orbits, I guess, on this mission, is how I'll put that.
I mean, look, the interesting orbit question is we're still not really clear on where it's going or what it's doing, but it is going into this high energy, highly elliptical orbit. And yeah, the Molnia satellites that you mentioned, those were used so they could get high, so they could remain stationary at high altitude, moving slowly over high latitudes. And that was how Soviet Union set up their satellite networks, right? Their early communication satellites did this, but this is doing something similar, but it's not clear whether the apogee will be in the north or the south. It's probably in the south, which, well, that's really odd because it's not like they're going to be sneaking. There's like some history with the X-37 where there were people that claimed that it was tracking other satellites, shadowing them, getting in close.
Right.
If it's doing an apogee at this altitude in the southern hemisphere, it's definitely not doing that because I can't think of anything strategically interesting down there. But instead, yeah, it's going to be hanging out low, and maybe they're testing some new sensors. That's one possibility. But it does. I don't think there's much advantage to being low and fast, to be honest, because you could do that anyway in this thing.
Yeah, one of the many questions about tonight's launch. I'm just sitting here looking at the Air Force page and reading this, the one sentence that we get over and over again. These tests include operating in new orbital regimes, experimenting with space domain awareness technologies, and investigating the radiation effects to NASA materials. I guess, was there anything space domain awareness-wise with a southern apogee like that? If there's nothing really of strategic interest out there, why would you necessarily want to be aware of that part of the space domain? As if that makes sense. Like,
there's strategically interesting stuff in the southern hemisphere,
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you had just said like orbit wise.
There's no case of it being able to shadow other satellites down there. When I heard that it might be doing some weird high inclination orbit, I was like, man, maybe they're going to try and rendezvous with some, Russian satellite in one of these orbits. That would be interesting. But I don't think it's doing that. I think that they are actually interested in materials and sensors going in and out of the Van Allen belts. I think that's what a big part of this is going to be.
That makes sense because there's the Southern Atlantic anomaly or something like that.
Yeah, that's where the magnetic field gets closest to the surface, and when they fly over that, the computers reset and everything because they get the most radiation down there.
They get all fizzy.
They do get all fizzy. Have you seen the was it Insta360 camera they put into orbit?
I have not.
They published amazing 8K footage in spherical video. It's fantastic, except that it is just full of radiation noise. Like the sensor clearly got damaged as soon as it got into space.
Wow. Yeah, I mean it's not a benign environment, and especially as you get further out and not in low Earth orbit, you start getting out into those radiation belts, or like Alex said, over the the southern Pacific
South Atlantic anomaly.
Anomaly,
Yeah, something along those lines. I don't really remember.
Yeah, if you look in mission control for the ISS, there's actually this region. It's marked on the map so that when the ISS is flying through there and there's something goes wrong, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's radiation."
Oh man, well, it's good that we can have something studying that. Hopefully, not just experiments.
We've been studying this ever since Explorer 1 went up and did actually useful science.
Right, and hopefully we get some more. I mean, the government will get more useful science from this one, but
yeah, what they're not interested in the radiation belts. They're interested in how their hardware reacts to the radiation belts.
Right. All right, well, how about we do some more questions? Here's one that we can get super pedantic on if we really wanted to. Admiral Marath is asking, can we count the side boosters of Falcon Heavy as separate launches? I don't think that's how SpaceX counts it, but I don't know. How do you factor that in to your counting of launches this year? Do you count a Falcon Heavy as one, Scott?
I would count it as one, but I mean, be aware that the bolts holding these together aren't amazingly strong, and they do actually have to sort of actively control themselves so they don't overstress these bolts. I say bolts; they're more complicated than that, but the point is, these are flying in formation; they're working together as a team.
Yeah, to think of it as one monolithic, rigid structure that all moves as one unit is not correct.
It's just still one thing flying, though. I count it as one.
All right, so we count it as one. I think we have that settled. Excellent. Let's see here. Flight of the Bicycle is asking, is the amount of TTEB on board each Falcon 9 launch the same, or does it vary by mission? This is an Alex question, if I've ever heard one.
Well, they certainly increased it at some point in the past because they ran out.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they have a set of number of canisters, but then they load differently depending on what is the profile. I think that's how they do it, because I think the whole removing the canisters and things like that, it's a bit probably more complicated than just don't fill the ones that you're not going to use. I think that's probably how they do it. I do not have any insight though.
Got it.
One thing I have actually realized about the orbit, while it doesn't hang out over any, potentially adversarial territories, it spends most of its time at altitude away from adversarial territories, which might be good if you're going to be doing experiments up there and you don't want to be observed.
Hey, now that makes sense. Fascinating.
I mean, the whole reason the X-37B exists is because the US moved most of its space research onto the space station, and the DoD needed a place where they could run these experiments and return them to Earth. They used to have the space shuttle if they wanted to do this, and the X-37 gave them that opportunity to run a bunch of classified stuff out of the, away from any international partners who might ask too many questions.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. 46 minutes to go. Did we update our clock? I'm assuming we updated our clock.
Yeah, I think so, because I updated mine and it is counting down the same way as our own. So
Excellent. Night Striker 7, thank you so much for the support. They say shout out to you guys for picking up the YouTube Slack since SpaceX cut YouTube live feeds. You guys rock. Hey, but you can also watch us on X if you want. Oh god, I just called it X. Thank you so
Even
much.
Elon Musk doesn't do that. Even though
David-
Elon Musk still calls it Twitter.
I mean, it's a good name. David, thank you for the support. They say, how incredible would it be if a pilot got out after the next landing? Oh my god, or even a robot. That would be incredible in the true sense of the word. It would not be credulous. I'd be like, is this is CGI, right? Astro Knucklehead, thank you again for more support. What is with the we already did that one. That's the lunar orbit question. Ethereal Swordsman, thank you for the support. They say, so yesterday, for some reason, a scarecrow won some big award. Apparently, he was outstanding in his field. Wow, I just said that live on air. And Max is reporting in our back channel that they can hear Falcon Heavy venting from the press site. And I do believe, Sawyer, if I'm not mistaken, prop load should have begun a few minutes ago. Is that right? Do we still have Sawyer? All right, well, did he unmute?
There we go. Am I actually unmuted this time?
Hey.
there we go.
There we go. Sorry about that. Unlike the Falcon 9, which begins fueling at about T-minus 35 minutes, this one starts at about T-minus 50 minutes when they start loading in RP-1, or Rocket Propellant 1, which is a refined form of kerosene, into the first stage. And then that's followed 5 minutes later by loading of liquid oxygen, or LOX/Loxygen, into those first stages as well. And when we say first stage, we're talking center core and side boosters.
Thank you for that.
And as
Scott,
you can see on the screen, I was going to say, as you can see on the screen, about 10 minutes after that is when the second stage RP-1 load begins. And then, just like with Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy loads RP-1 first, then the Loxygen. So there is still a best vent, just at a different time. It's a 22-minute vent.
all right then. Well, it's still a good vent. I can't believe I get to do this, but we have Scott Manley on stream, so I get to ask him the important questions. Scott, what is your take on using the term Loxygen to describe liquid oxygen? How do you feel about that?
It does seem to save some syllables. I'm all for it.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I
go.
got in the habit of saying slick instead of Space Launch Complex, so you know.
I do
works.
appreciate saying slick. I am a slick fan.
Yeah.
Sawyer, how do you feel about Scott Manley being down for saying Loxygen?
I'd say that's pretty slick, if I do say so myself.
I would say it's cool.
But I will say that Lox is faster, but it does confuse potentially, with salmon and cream cheese, so.
Exactly. It specifies that we're talking about rockets, not bagels.
Yeah.
Fair. All right. Fair arguments all around. I have no disagreements for once. Chris
And
Stallings, go ahead.
Yeah, the X-37 does have like a big bagel on the back of it, right? The service module is sort of bagel-shaped, donut-shaped, right?
Right, and that's not something that it's relatively new in the program, right? The first ones that launched did not have that service module, but these recent launches have.
And they have been very careful in this one not to show us any pictures with the service module, correct?
Right. If you look at any of the pictures of it that's been released, like the one they released of it prior to encapsulation in the fairing, the photo is very clearly framed, cutting off the extreme bottom of the X-37B where the service module would be attaching. Like you don't even see where it attaches. You just see that's the end right there.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out, do some comparison with other images to see if it was perhaps the same length, based upon the size of the fairing, see if they've maybe had a larger service module, given that this was a mission going to a different orbit.
Right.
But couldn't see anything within the errors of my, very crude math to suggest they changed that.
All right. Well, let's see here. Good to mention the service module, though, because that is not something that a lot of people know about. Okay, I am hearing that we have a tweet from SpaceX saying that they are standing down from tonight's Falcon Heavy launch
Darn.
due to a ground side issue. Vehicle and payload remain healthy. team is resetting for the next launch opportunity of the USSF-52 mission, which is no earlier than tomorrow night. Well, dang.
Darn.
Well,
Oh,
you know
well.
what they say. It's better to be on the ground wishing you were flying than flying wishing you were on the ground.
Scrubs, not ruds.
Yeah, absolutely. Scrubs, not ruds.
I got to see a launch first thing this morning anyway. I was quite happy.
I almost drove up there for that. Dang it. Another spooky government launch. It was a ground-based interceptor out of Vandenberg at like 6:30 this morning. Did it go at the top of the window?
6:48, and it went just before sunrise. It was great. It was really obvious, and all my footage was bad because my phone was out of focus, and my camera I had set in manual mode with the images were a bit noisy, but boy, yeah, we all saw it. It was great.
Did it do the classic silo launch thing where it like launched a donut of smoke up out of the silo as it ignited?
I presume it did, but what was really interesting in this case, it went up at like a 45-degree angle, then staged, and then the second stage immediately did like a drift, and it started pointing its nose down. It was going up so fast that it started pointing its nose down, basically cancelling out its vertical speed, and then it went horizontal. It was apparently a 3-stage rocket, but they only were using 2 of the stages for some some demonstration. I don't know, but they were shooting an air-launched ballistic missile that had come from Midway Island, and it was apparently a success.
All right. Well, I'm slightly jealous I didn't go out there for that one. I've been traveling like crazy for the last week and a half, and I should have gone, because ground-based interceptors, they're relatively rare, those tests, and I mean, Vandenberg, it can very frequently it can very frequently be not great conditions, and it looked from your pictures like it was a really beautiful morning for a launch.
Well, I mean, I was in San Francisco, so yeah, but so where in Lompoc the sunrise was at like 10 minutes after the launch, whereas where I was, the sunrise was a little later. It was like it was like another 15 minutes. So had darker skies that it launched into.
Wait, so you could see it from San Francisco?
Yeah, you could see it all the way up the west coast. It was really
Holy moly!
I don't think I've seen a rocket go as vertical as this particular one. In fact, it went so vertical it went out of frame for the camera that I'd set up.
Wow. All right. Well, next one. Next one I won't miss. But yes, you are reading correctly. If you are reading in the chat or hearing it's a scrub or seeing on screen that this has scrubbed, the USSF-52 Falcon Heavy launch for tonight has in fact scrubbed due to ground side issue. We're still kind of hanging out, and of course there is still a Starlink mission in 3 hours and 18 minutes, which our original plan was to stream this and then sort of go no commentary for a little bit and then stream Starlink. So I don't know, Scott, I figure we hang out for a little bit and chit chat, and at some point we'll go no commentary and wait for Starlink.
Yeah, what other questions do people have?
Yeah, and again, just don't leave, people. We have a whole nother launch coming up tonight, so even if we don't have Falcon Heavy, you see the countdown clock, we're still going.
Yep. Let's see here. Matrix is asking, X-37B equals stubby shuttle. I mean, I guess, yeah.
Sort of, but then they bolted this section on the back with the rudder vaders. So it's like a shuttle at the front, but instead of a big tail, it's got an extra section with a pair of V-tail rudder vaders. Kind of neat.
Shuttle in the front, party in the back.
Yeah. And then they've got the extra junk in the trunk that's a service module.
They literally have junk in the trunk. Oh, man.
The other thing I just sort of occurred to me looking at the orbit is they, of course, need to have the perigee in the northern hemisphere, because when it lands, that's how they're going to land it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. When you've got something in one of these high inclination orbits, there's the oblateness of the Earth will cause the orbit to twist around. And that's one of the things that's special about Molniya orbit. If you put it at exactly 63.4, then these forces sort of cancel out, and it's stuck at that, that location. But since they're away from that, this will process around.
We're getting some interference from you.
From me?
Thank you. No, you're good, Scott. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. So like if they'd done it at that orbit, they would have been stuck, but I'm not sure how fast it processes around. This is, in technical speak, the argument of the perigee precesses when you're like in an inclined orbit. So this is a whole thing. This is because the Earth has more mass around the equator, right? The Earth is a oblate spheroid, and it changes the orbits a little. This is how you get sun-synchronous orbit, that they can pull the orbit around. This is, of course, what I like to call fat Earth theory. It's true. It has its uses.
I mean, you're not wrong. So you're saying basically, looking at the orbit, they're going to have to land it somewhere in the northern hemisphere because
and that's where the landing strips are, right?
That's where the perigee's going to be?
Yeah. Unless it processes too much, but they might be able to control that. I don't know. I'm sure it's possible.
Neat. Let's do some more questions. Let's see here. Here's one from Griffin B asking that heat tiles appear to be only about 5 millimeters thick. How can these be so thin, and what do we know about the tile technology on the X-37? Does it use tough rock? Is that where I'm remembering that word from?
The leading edges, it uses tough rock, yeah. But tough rock is just a way of joining the tiles, I think, right? It's a way of bonding the tiles so they don't pop off all the time. They're very similar to the shuttle tiles, I think. But I don't think they're 5 millimeters thick. I don't know. 5 inches is more like it.
Yeah,
they seem much thicker than 5 millimeters.
Right.
But they might be thicker still. I mean, I really am interested to see how they bring this thing back down.
Yeah, and I do believe a majority of them are the silica-based, as you were mentioning, for the shuttle, with some tough rock enforced on the leading edges.
Yeah.
Cool deal. Yeah, and if it's going to this crazy orbit, it's going to be coming in quite hot. So this heat shield is going to get a workout, I guess, is a way to put it lightly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm like currently furiously Googling the equations to figure out how the thing scales with velocity. It will be, it's not just like, it's moving maybe like 20% faster or whatever, but it's going to be way, way hotter, right?
Right.
Because these things don't scale linearly.
So it's going to be
a lot more.
It's going to be a lot hotter for a shorter period of time.
No, it'll have to be hotter for longer because it'll go through this really hot phase and then it'll slow down to its regular velocity, and then it'll still have to slow through that. So, yeah, I don't know the capabilities of this heat shield, and it could well be that one of the things they want to test is aerogravity assist to change the orbit, where they dip down and they try to change the orbit that way. But that will take multiple attempts. I won't be surprised if they actually do go through multiple re-entry scenarios and we see this thing streaking across the sky more than once.
That makes sense.
Man, that would be so cool.
I know. I expect if they're doing that, they're going to do it over the ocean so that nobody can see it.
Right. Do I know anybody with a boat?
You have a kayak.
Let's see here. Micah is asking, wouldn't it be cool if we got to see payload deploy? Well, it's grubbed, so even if they would show it, which they won't, we won't see it tonight. But yes, that would be cool.
By the way,
no, they don't show payload deploy, right? Or they show? I guess they show fairing sep.
They might not even show that.
Boyer?
Yeah, they typically cut it right at fairing separation and then only show the return portion of the vehicle. But what I was going to say is you've heard of Elf on a Shelf. Now you've got Jack on a kayak.
Stop it. Stop it. I will not perpetuate Elf on a Shelf on this channel. Chris Stallings, thanks for the support. Katie Porter, thank you for the support. Confirming that Uncrustables are in fact raviolis. Scott, are Uncrustables ravioli?
I have no idea.
That's the appropriate answer.
Katie has started a war with Max and I on that, so I only learned about the cubed rule of food this weekend. So yeah.
Is a cheesecake a cake or a pie?
Oh no, we had this discussion the other day. I mean,
I would argue it's a pie, but
kind of is.
I digress.
Yeah.
Cake, thank you for the support. You say cake?
No. As I was saying, I was coming back to the velocity thing. Sorry, I found my equation.
You found it.
So
science, so to first approximation, the entry heating goes as V cubed. So if you're basically raising your thing up by towards geostationary orbit, you're adding like 30-something% velocity. So they're doubling the heating rate on this thing easily.
Yeah, that's significant. Double the amount of heating.
Yes, thermal flux.
It always makes me think of flux capacitor for some reason. Anyways, so they're obviously not launching this thing without knowing that it can, in fact, or having a reasonable, guess and having reasonable data, simulations, all of that it can survive this sort of extra heating. But it's still the first time that they have done this with this vehicle. So always kind of interesting.
Yeah, you know where they do a lot of that testing, right?
Is it Ames?
Yeah. They have these plasma wind tunnels where it's like, it's a wind tunnel, but we make it really hot and we ionize it. So they can generate really high heat fluxes, and they can do like transient ones where they simulate incredibly high speeds for very short times. Like Ames was there, where they designed and tested the Pika, which is used by SpaceX, right?
Right. Yeah, I love Ames. One of my very first California things I did when I moved out here was drive up to San Francisco and drive around the whole area. I went to Ames and I forget what I said to the guard. It was something like, "Oh, I'm going to the museum," because there is a museum that's open to the public on site, if I remember correctly. At least there was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So I got through the gate and then I just drove around Ames for several hours.
I know. So I actually had dinner with a guy. This was like a party, and I had dinner with a guy that works is doing experiments on the vertical gun range. That's a light gas gun that's used to, send projectiles at several kilometers per second, so they can simulate particle impacts on spacecraft and impact craters and stuff. And it's a really cool gizmo that I want to go and see sometime.
Yeah. Oh man, I need to get back up to Northern California here soon. It's so beautiful.
Come up and I'll fly you around.
Hey, I'll take you up on that.
There you go.
That's as
I'm
good a
looking
reason
for
as
any excuse to go flying,
Heck yeah. One of these days I'm gonna have to. Wow, this is so far off the rails here. Falcon Heavy scrubbed.
Falcon Heavy scrubbed. Yeah.
Right. One of these days we're gonna have to go to some backcountry airfields. How do you feel about landing on a dirt strip?
I haven't done it yet, but I did do a great soft field landing on a runway.
Nice. All right, goals.
Yeah, no, nothing I fly would land on a soft field. I'll say that.
Got it. What's your favorite route to fly? Do you have a particular route where you're oh, I'm gonna go do this. It's gonna be nice lighting or what have you?
Oh yeah, I like to fly down around over the Golden Gate, up the coast, and then over to Clear Lake and get a dinner at the restaurant there. Check out the B-57s and then fly home.
Nice. B-57s.
Yeah. There's this random little airfield near me that has a pair of Canberras.
Yeah.
Right, so they are just parked out on the ramp. They're actually British B-50s, Canberras, and they were used by NASA to do all sorts of experiments and stuff. They were used. Company was trying to pitch them as platforms for observation and all that. And of course, they're related to the WB-57s, but very different.
Right, right. Hence the different designation. I had no idea. That's crazy. Are they like mothballed, or are they like falling apart,
They
or
were,
like a...
yeah, they were sort of sitting on the ramp, and then they were auctioned off. And one of the people that bought it has been trying to restore it. He's been running the engines and trying to get it, to a state where he can fly it again, which is
Oh my
pretty
God,
sweet.
that's
There's some videos of it, like running its engine up, man. So
that's amazing.
yeah. So fun thing about it, I found this paper that was pitched, to NASA to basically sell, the capabilities of this. You can put your experiments on it. Here's what we can do. Here's what we can do that the U2 and the WB-57 can't.
Right.
And they said, look, we have the capability to carry your instruments up to 55,000 feet. And then since you want to calibrate them against like space, we can roll inverted and point your instruments at space. And then flip the other way down and then actually use the instruments.
Wow. Yeah, having heard U2 pilots talk about sort of the extra thin margins that you have in the flight
Right.
regime at that sort of altitude. The idea of flipping inverted at that sort of altitude in any aircraft is slightly terrifying to me. Wow.
Yeah, the the Canberra. I say it was a Canberra and it became the B-57, but this is a Canberra. They were actually used as ground attack planes, so they had guns and stuff on them. They would fly down. They were pretty maneuverable.
Wow. I love that aircraft, either in B or WB configuration. It's just so, I don't know, the shape of it is pleasing.
Yeah, I like the engine sort of just going through the wings rather than slung beneath them.
Right. Matt Hicks, thank you for the support. They say my favorite YouTube channel and my favorite YouTuber. That's sweet. Micah, thank you so much for becoming a Red Team member. M-Tank. Thank you for the support. They say, hello, if they scrub the Heavy, they're forced to scrub Starlink, right? 5 days till I get my chat moon. Will miss you, Ship 26. You were the best. I don't miss Ship 26. Let's just start at the end there. Boo, Ship 26. I'm not aware of any reason they have to scrub the Starlink if they scrub Falcon Heavy. I'm not sure where that's coming from.
Yeah, there's no reason, because it's a ground service equipment issue with the Falcon Heavy. It's not weather.
Right. But let's stepping back a moment. Scott, how do you feel about Ship 26? I can't believe I get to ask you all these inane questions.
I mean, clearly it was complicit in destroying the booster. So, you got to, any judgment that you pass on it have to realize that it was just too hard on the booster. And so if it, somehow then failed, if it basked in its own reflected glory and damaged its engines, there may be some karma going on there. But I'm not going to pass judgment.
All right, that's fair. Ship 28, all right, I hear you, but specifically Ship 26, the flapless...
Oh, shoot, you see, this is where you realize that I'm a Starship amateur, right?
No.
25 was the one. Oh my god, you guys are all like, oh, Scott, he's an idiot. He doesn't know anything about Star...
No, all chat is saying is boo Ship 26 because nobody likes Ship 26.
26. Did you know that 26 is the only number which sits between a square and a cube? In the whole of numbers, it's the only number that has that property.
Okay,
but
now
if
you
numbers are
broke my
infinite,
mind.
how do we know that?
Mathematicians have proved it because they have too much time.
Yeah, somehow that makes sense. Yeah, even though you have infinite numbers, you still have rules.
You have rules, and somebody
spacing
proves these
between
things.
numbers. Yeah, because you have rules between how the spacing between numbers. Yeah, you broke my mind because I hadn't thought about that little fact.
It's a pretty obscure fact.
Ship 26.
Yes. This is the best thing to come out of Ship 26.
Number good.
Yes, I think we can all agree. Let's see. Cap A28, thank you for the support. Wishing us all happy holidays. Greg is thanking you, Scott, for the great information. Indeed, thank you.
Thank you.
Aravale, none of those names that pops up all the time. Thank you for the support. They say, crazy how just a couple of years ago, this would have been the biggest launch of the year, and now it's in a 5-way tie for third. That is true. It's good times.
From Florida.
Peter, West Coast, Best Coast. I have Scott Manley is on stream. We can say West Coast, Best Coast, and you can
West
just
Coast,
The reason why
Best
it's
Coast.
tied for the 5 best, because you could throw Starship in there as also 2 of the most anticipated best launches of the year. So
That's
that's
true.
why to answer that question of tied for the 5 best from Florida.
All right, fine. Peter Thompson, thank you for the support. They say awesome coverage as always, and a double good luck toasted marshmallow for both missions tonight. Scott Manley will understand.
Yeah. It's very much Outer Wilds.
All right then. Coco Cats. For once, I'm the one that doesn't get the reference. Adrian's gonna dunk on me. Okay. I am hearing that we have a tweet from Brevard County saying we have deactivated our launch operations support team after scrub launches of the SpaceX Falcon Heavy and Falcon 9 rockets. So that sounds like
Wait,
we
what?
are. It sounds like we are
That is
scrubbing.
that is from Broward EOC, which is the Emergency Operations Center, which is another one of the assets that's activated during these launches as just another added safety measure.
But are they confused that they're scrubbing both? They're standing down both launches?
The wording does
I
seem to
wouldn't be
imply both.
surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because normally government customers have these little weird rules where you cannot launch before the mission happens if it's like unless 24 hours. I know NASA has at least one of those rules where the previous launch needs to be more than 48 hours. I don't know about the USSF, the Space Force, might be different kind of rule, but these government customers normally have these kind of rules. So I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case, that they want that spacing to look at the data and things like that. We sort of touched on that yesterday, but you know what this means? Now I have 2 launches on my birthday. Haha.
But is it possible that they're scrubbing Starlink because they don't want another launch to go off near the X-37?
Could be.
Yeah, not so much that it's near the X-37 so much as I asked a NASA official about this once before. I believe it was during the last CRS mission.
Oh, I
And
remember
they
that.
said that, part of the reasoning with that is just the fact that they analyze the data after each and every launch. NASA does at least. So that is why they want to not have anything else launch after, because they would need a couple days themselves to then re-go through the data, analyze everything, which would delay it by a couple days, as opposed to just not launching the other one. Then you don't have to review all that extra data and you just go.
Makes sense. All right.
Also,
Well,
big money super secret spy plane for military, more important than 23 Starlinks.
indeed, it is an important mission, an expensive mission, and of course it's a Falcon Heavy, so it's not just another Starlink mission. Although those are good too.
They do be hitting different.
Especially when late at night. All right, well, I guess our doubleheader has gone to a scrubble header.
Scrubble header.
Scrubble header. Unfortunately.
I think I wouldn't necessarily take the Breward EOC as gospel just yet, but it does feel that way.
We will keep an eye. I think
tend
SpaceX has updated their website as well. I'm waiting for us to get a screenshot of that in.
There's
Oh yeah,
something in the
December 12th. Wait.
Yeah, December 12th, for the launch of 23 Starlink satellites. Liftoff is targeted for 11:02 p.m. Eastern. That will be tomorrow,
Okay.
11:02 p.m. December 12th. So that will be another doubleheader.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yep,
let's really hope that it's for sure a doubleheader.
Well, it's always good to, once again, not launch something if you have any issues. We don't want to see any of these missions jeopardized. We don't want to see SpaceX's excellence cadence disrupted. So we make sad noises when there's a scrub, but oh well, it's just 24 hours until the next attempt for both of these.
More rocket talk, more better.
Indeed. I'd rather be flying an X-Wing is asking Scott, how's the instrument reading coming?
You know what? I know all the theory. I gotta find time to actually do the test and actually start flying the thing. But I'm actually in the process of buying a plane. That's more important. I just bought a hangar.
So you don't have to have pay rental fees and everything. You can just have a plane of your own. That's
Well,
the
it's
dream.
mostly the airfield I'm at has the only planes I can rent are like $350 an hour, and I'm getting something that's more like $50 to $60 an hour. So
Nice.
it'll pay for itself quickly enough.
Nice. Well, I hope you find an awesome plane, and congrats on the hangar.
Yes, I hope I have a plane to put in it sometime.
And
And
also,
I hope I
thanks
get
for
to fly down to Vandenberg. That's what I want to do.
yes. Hey, whenever you want to fly down to Vandy for a launch, let me know if you have room for a guy that used to have a beard but doesn't have a beard anymore and a camera. I will gladly. I still haven't taken photos of a launch from a plane. It's been on my list to do forever.
Oh, yeah, so there's a plan. I am all down for that.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, thank you for Scott for jumping on. That was a fun little thing seeing you pop up in chat there and just having you jump in. So thanks for all your knowledge and amazing videos. If you're not following Scott's YouTube, you should be. You should be subscribed. All the good stuff. You guys know how YouTube works.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Seriously.
Yeah, anytime. And you can see now, as we are getting ready to wrap, we have a nice view of Slick 40 and the other scrubbed rocket. But you can see that's the double. I don't know where we settle on that. The double scrubber, I guess.
I think Doubleheader sounds good.
All right,
I like
fair.
Doubleheader.
All right, fair. Sawyer, also thank you for being out there in the field and jumping on commentary. Sounds like you're having some more interference going on, but we love you anyways.
Well,
We might have lost him. And also on the stream, of course, was Alex. Alex, thank you.
It's always a pleasure. I mean, today a little bit less because we had a double scrub, and it's a bit of a pity, but we'll come back tomorrow and try again.
Yes, indeed we will. And of course, in the background, we had Patrick Cahoon operating the stream with assistance from Kevin Michael Reed. So thank you to both of them. But yeah, with that, we will wrap things up for tonight, and we will come back tomorrow for another attempt at this Falcon Heavy, Falcon 9 doubleheader. But until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Echo down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange! 145!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
What is it?
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed. We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
Methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?